Hungries, the girl with all the gifts. Here think of zombies, but grown by fungus. In this world, a mutant Cordyceps infection jumps from insects to humans. It spreads by bites, blood, and even airborne spores. When it hits, people lose control and become fast predators called Hungries. They don't rot right away because they're still alive. The fungus is basically driving the car while the human brain sits in the back seat. The twist is the second generation kids. They're born from infected parents, yet they keep their minds. They talk, think, love, and do algebra until human scent gets close and instinct kicks in. Melanie, a gifted girl, is the face of this new kind. She's guarded by soldiers, studied by a scientist hunting for a cure, and protected by a teacher who treats her like a person, not a lab sample. Picture Matilda if the class sometimes tries to eat the hallway monitor. What actually happens? Society has collapsed. Survivors move through a Britain full of silent cities and fungal forests. Melanie discovers huge spore pods, giant fruiting bodies ready to burst and fill the air with infection. Realizing there's no true cure, she lights the match, literally, and releases the spores, ending human dominance so her second-gen peers can inherit the world. It's harsh, but logical. If regular humans stay, the war never ends. Final image, the teacher in a hazmat suit, giving lessons to the new children through a door, while the world outside turns to green and quiet. It's a fairy tale written by biology. Why it's scary. The science feels uncomfortably plausible. Cordyceps is real in nature. The kids are sympathetic and dangerous, and the environment itself becomes the monster. Like choosing between saving your phone battery or turning on the flashlight. You're losing something either way. Siqqusim zombies, Brian Keene's The Rising. These aren't virus zombies, they're demons wearing people. In Brian Keene's The Rising, a particle accelerator accident cracks a door into the void. Entities called Siqqusim pour in. They reanimate corpses and animals, slip inside, and drive the body like it's stolen. They keep the host's memories, talk, set traps, use guns, and even drive cars, which, yes, is as unfair as it sounds. Imagine a chess match where the pawns suddenly grab the controller. The story tracks a father crossing an apocalyptic US to rescue his son. Along the way, we learn the rules. Headshots slow a possessed body, but pain means little, and the Siqqusim can just find new meat. They coordinate over distance, taunt survivors with the host's memories, and weaponize psychology. It's not a shambling horde, it's a hive of strategists wearing rotting masks. The threat isn't just teeth, it's tactics. What actually happens? Civilization shreds fast. The undead are organized, the living are scattered, and every safe spot becomes a trap in waiting. You get sequences with possessed wildlife, military breakdowns, and survivors arguing over what humanity even means when the enemy thinks, plans, and enjoys the hunt. The book ends on a cliff, rolling into City of the Dead, because this kind of evil doesn't tie bows, it sharpens knives. Why it's scary. The Siqqusim flip the usual comfort of they're dumb, we're smart. Here, they're smarter, or at least crueler and patient. They twist grief into bait and logistics into weapons. If Romero's zombies are a rising tide, Keene's are a special forces team that also brought the tide. Simple headshot rules? Deleted. Your best play now is to stay invisible, stay quiet, and never assume a corpse is empty. The Crossed comics. Horror that retains its brain while losing its soul. In Crossed, people get infected with a virus that drives them to extreme sadism. They don't rot or stagger like classic zombies. Instead, they stay alive, aware, and very, very violent. The Crossed names comes from a rash shaped like a cross that appears on their faces when they turn. What makes them scary? They retain enough intelligence to use weapons, set traps, drive cars, coordinate groups. They're planning monsters, not just gore machines. Their sadism is way beyond basic hunger. They mutilate for pleasure. Sometimes they even injure themselves just because they find it fun. The brutal joy they take in violence turns every encounter into a nightmare. Infection spreads fast. Bites, bodily fluids, any direct contact. Victims change in minutes to hours. Once infected, you're done. There's no cure. What happens in the stories? Society collapses very quickly once the Crossed outbreak begins. Governments, hospitals, survivors, they all fall apart under waves of violence. Survivors try hiding, but the Crossed don't just break down doors, they break minds. They infiltrate, they terrorize. Over time, some Crossed become super Crossed, who are even more cunning, patient, and strategic. They lead gangs, plan assaults, and even try to use their horrors to manipulate other Crossed or survivors. It's horror because you're not just outrunning the undead, you're running from people who turn into your worst nightmares, but still think enough to make it personal. Alvin virus infected, the sadness. When the virus doesn't just kill you, it awakens your darkest impulses. The sadness, 2021, Taiwan, introduces the Alvin virus, which starts like a flu but mutates into something terrifying. Once mutated, it connects brain regions controlling aggression and lust. So the infected don't lose awareness, they live their horror in full. What makes them scary? They're intelligent enough to taunt, plot, and enjoy cruelty. This isn't a mindless horde. Some infected act with intention. The speed and brutality of their actions shocks because the transformation is rapid and grotesque. People start with mild symptoms, then explode into violence. Scenes are often visceral and disturbing: blood, mutilation, betrayal. Because the virus is presented almost like a disease that everyone ignores at first, there's a creeping dread. This could be like any outbreak, but goes off the rails quickly. That relatability makes the fear hit harder. What happens in the film? The plot follows Jim and Kat trying to survive in Taipei as the Alvin virus spreads. They witness everyday people turning savage. Public services fail, hospitals overflow, madness spreads through neighborhoods. There's a scene where infected people with black eyes attack on trains, in hospitals, and shops. The violence is graphic, sexual, and chaotic. Characters have to choose between fleeing, fighting, or numbing themselves to the violence. It ends without a tidy resolution. The horror seems too big, too chaotic for anyone to fix. The infected cry, rage, hurt, and yet in moments show awareness of what they are doing. That contrast, knowing and unable to stop, cuts deep. Cranks, the Maze Runner. Cranks are humans infected by the flare virus in the Maze Runner universe, and they turn into something partway between zombie and shambling horror. As infection progresses, victims' bodies mutate. They get black veins, long twisted arms, vine-like growths, and necrotic decay. Their skin may harden into shells that shrug off some gunshots. The longer someone is infected, the worse they look and act. In dark, damp corners, underground tunnels, abandoned buildings, they rest when not hunting. When disturbed, though, they become aggressive and violent. What makes cranks especially chilling is that some retain bits of self-awareness, depending on how far along the flare infection they are. They sometimes speak, display emotional memory, yet their minds break. They don't recognize loved ones, or even themselves. Their behavior becomes irrational, cannibalistic, merciless. The atmosphere with cranks is dread. You know a person could be normal one moment, then lost forever. The transformation is slow, brutal, and often tragic. More than just a jump scare, it's a collapse of what it means to be human. Trioxin 245 zombies, Return of the Living Dead. Trioxin 245, often just called 245 trioxin, is a chemical agent in Return of the Living Dead. It accidentally gets released from military drug supply drums, and the gas, or rain from contaminated smoke, reanimates dead tissue and bodies in cemeteries. Corpses come back as zombies, but these aren't your typical headshot stops them creatures. A bullet to the head may damage them, but it doesn't always kill them completely. Electric shock, fire, or complete destruction of the body are sometimes required. These zombies are disturbing in other ways too. They talk, moan coherently, and sometimes form parts of themselves moving, even when heavily disfigured. They crave brains, not just flesh, not for nutrition only, but to relieve agony of being undead. They feel pain, regret, or something like it, which makes their existence even more tragic. The chemical also spreads via smoke, rain, wind, so the zombie outbreak escalates quickly. The horrifying thing is seeing zombies that are still aware of their suffering, trying to cling to life while being driven by horrifying hunger. Marvel Zombies. In the Marvel Zombies comics, superheroes and villains become infected by the hunger virus, but they don't lose everything the moment they turn. They retain their intellect, personalities, and superpowers, even while they are driven by an uncontrollable craving for flesh and human lives. For example, once a hero becomes a zombie, they still remember who they are. They still use their abilities like flight, strength, energy blasts, only now those powers serve the hunger. They may be decayed, savage, grotesque, but they aren't mindless. What actually happens is horrific and chaotic. On Earth 2148, the infection spreads via blood contact or bites. Heroes like Spider-Man, Wolverine, Iron Man all get infected. They don't just wander, they organize, fight over territory, attempt to keep feeding infrastructure running so the hunger doesn't starve. Even when someone's head is severed, in some cases that head still acts with awareness. Over time, as the story progresses, infected heroes attempt to devour cosmic entities. One plot point has zombified versions of superheroes trying to consume Galactus and later becoming cosmic powered themselves. The real terror is that power plus intellect plus insatiable hunger makes them far more dangerous than traditional zombies ever could be. Black Lantern Corps, Necron. In DC's Blackest Night, death takes center stage. Necron is a cosmic force of death, the Lord of the Unliving, who uses black power rings to resurrect corpses from across the DC universe, creating the Black Lantern Corps. These aren't just undead shells. Many of the Black Lanterns remember who they were in life, speak, pursue goals, and manipulate emotions in others to gain power. They feed off emotional energy, grief, love, fear, all that makes life matter. What unfolds in Blackest Night is a universe-wide nightmare. Necron resurrects dozens of heroes and villains, sending them as Black Lanterns to fight the living. Famous characters like Batman, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Flash, not to mention many others, return from dead as nodes of terror. The Black Lantern rings regenerate corpses, repair injuries, allow them to fly, to build constructs out of black energy, and resist many attacks. Fire, physical damage, even some forms of energy, don't stop them easily. The heroes must gather all emotional spectrum cores, green, red, blue, etc., to stand any chance. Life and light become weapons.